Virginia Beach, we have pitch practice for entrepreneurs. Is anybody here for the first time? Just sign up for our email announcements, just to make sure that you don't miss next week. And who has an announcement? Is there anything coming up that people need to be aware of? Events going on in the community?
Gary has startup night tomorrow night. Yes, at ODU Innovation Center.
Okay, what do you do?
Gary from past year. He's not here. From 6 to 8.
Okay, 6 o'clock tomorrow night, Innovation Center, ODU.
Yeah.
Anything else happening here this last summer month? So get ready for the busy fall.
Oh, we drove back.
Nothing I know of.
All right, well, we're excited to be here today, and we have one of our alum coming back, Nick Sutton, with Digital Lens Rental. He's going to tell us all about what's happening in his business and what's happened since he came to present a couple years ago. So, I'll give you the floor. We always give you 6 minutes. I'll give you a minute more.
Oh yeah, this probably shouldn't take me 6 minutes.
Pro.
Morning everyone, Nick Sutton, doing Digital Lens Rental. Let's see if, I don't remember how we did. There we go. Start here. So for anyone who doesn't know what I do, if it's not kind of apparent, we are a rental company out of Norfolk, started in 2016. Basically started on a whim. I run a Facebook group with 3,000 photographers, and it came down to people saying, hey, we don't have camera stores, we don't have anywhere to check out equipment other than basically Best Buy, and that's pretty limited. Been in Best Buy looking at camera stuff, so started up Digital Lens Rental. It's not a new concept, it's kind of rolling with a concept that's been around for years. So the problem that we solve in the community we're building, there's, like I said, there's no true professional camera stores in the area. We have people have limited access to equipment, and they don't have any hands-on learning. So you can't go somewhere and actually try something out, walk around with it, and try different combinations of cameras with lenses. We allow people to come in and try whatever they want to try out. No last-minute solutions. So our competition, you have to ship your items, so you're not going to get that next day. They don't have Amazon option, and it would cost you a fortune if you did. Simply for the fact of insuring the equipment going to and from. So our advantage, we don't ship anything, so people can come to our store, they can book. I was just messaging with someone, said, hey, I need something this afternoon, can you, swing by your store and I'll meet you? And I said, yeah, absolutely, it's not a big deal. The hands-on experience, so we have a lot of people come in who are new, the moms, the dads, the aunts, the uncles, like, oh, my son or daughter, whoever is playing a sport, or they're graduating, we need something, we're going to be sitting a mile away from the stage, what can you help us with? And we show them, we tell them, we give them general settings, the people who have worked for me, we've shot in a lot of venues, so we kind of give you a baseline of what you probably would have to do. The personal interaction, so I always think it's a little different that when you talk to somebody on a phone versus seeing someone in person and getting that true experience to interact with someone, I think it makes a better connection for them. And then, like I said, the last minute option. That is probably hands down the most beneficial aspect of our business for people. Everybody's got a little bit of procrastination in them, so they might either have a client that says, oh, I want to do something Friday, or I want to do something Thursday. You're kind of stuck if you don't have the option to rent something for a special occasion. So this is kind of a breakdown of my 6 cold hard facts. So when I did this back in 2016, I was kind of brand new at it. We'd only been doing it for I think 7 or 8 months at that point. So I figured going through this was actually kind of an eye opener for me. When I made this presentation. So I'm still reinvesting all of the revenue back into the business. I work during the day, and I have 3 employees part-time who work for me. So other than the salaries and the rent, everything goes back into the business. Still a 0 debt operation. I've never got any loans. It's been money out of my pocket. It's been money from what the business has made. So our customer growth has been kind of crazy, to say the least. We have over 464 transactions a year to date, which is 214 from just 2017. That's 214 more than 2017, which is pretty awesome. You know, I looked at that and I was like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. More revenue. Our revenue has increased from up to $109 per transaction, which is $39 more than it was last year, which was basically $109 more than 2016. But so sales growth in 2017. So our first year we had 120% growth in our sales from 2016, which I kind of expected because you know the business was so small in 2016. It basically doubled in 2017, so not a big deal. In 2018, right now, year to date, it's a little off still. It's actually a little higher than that now, but we're at 110%, and we're not even in our busiest month, which is pretty awesome in my opinion. You know, I think it kind of shows that we're doing something right. So changes I've made since 2016. Obviously, every business has a learning curve, and I've learned some rough ways, but I got additional staff. I have 3 part-time employees now. They split the work shifts. We have electronic forms. I was doing everything by paper, which was horrendous. You know, it was a smart investment. I paid $50 a month for an electronic form. That really helps. The equipment barcode, so everything, you know, inventory-wise, I can scan it now. When it goes out, we know who has it, where it's going. The equipment servicing, so whether it's, you know, cleaning cameras, calibrations, you know, stuff along those repairs, we do that now. The texting service for orders, so when your orders due back, it automatically changes, and you get a text message and an email, so people can't go, oh, I forgot. Well, we texted you and we emailed you, so kind of a good little reminder. And then we extended our hours. That starts actually next week. So we were on a really limited basis. Mondays and Fridays were our busiest days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we were open for basically 3 hours, and now we're going to be open for a lot longer. We're going to be open 1 to 6:30, Monday through Friday, and open on Saturday mornings. So really, the sky's the limit. You know, I'd like to open up additional locations, add more funding to the business. You know, we're going to continue to grow our, you know, our product base, and then optimize our back end even more. And that's it. That's all I got. If anybody has any questions, I can answer.
I have one. If you're going to add additional location, where would you put your second one?
So that is something I've been trying to test the waters on. So I have a real big problem right now of people on the peninsula wanting to come to the south zone. So I've looked into ideas of doing like a pickup and drop off location. Like if I can find a really small office that someone can sit at for, you know, 4 hours on a day, or just figure out the logistics of how I could have someone meet someone on the peninsula. I think if I were to open like a whole new store, it would probably be Richmond, because I think Richmond is a very similar market for photography as Virginia Beach would be. It would really come down to, you know, having the money to do that, because it'd be so expensive to buy all the equipment, and then figuring out the website issues of, you know, I think I would basically almost have to create 2 different websites, and one would be Norfolk and one would be Richmond, so I don't have problems with inventory, and then I could always move inventory back and forth.
Your logo is impressive. Do you have any story behind that logo and how you picked
logo,
that? Yes.
So the logo story is actually kind of funny because I'm also a photographer. That's probably not surprising, but I used 99 Designs back in 2012 or 13, somewhere like that, and this guy created a logo for my photography business, and it was one of those things. It took, you know, the whole gamut of trying to figure out what logo I wanted. I'm a very simplistic kind of person, and he made that logo for me, and I reached out to him like 4 years later, and I was like, hey, I'm starting this new business, you know, you did a really good job on my last logo. He's like, can you make me another logo? Here's my idea. I just want something that just kind of stands out on it. He's like, sure. And that was the first iteration that he sent me. And I was like, you won. Good job. That's perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And I just love it. So.
Yes, thanks.
What is the demographic of your customers, and how do you reach them?
So if you asked me that in 2016, I said everyone, which is not the truth. I have a lot of professional photographers who use me, but majority of the people who use me are, I would say, semi-pro, amateur, hobbyist. The professionals use my services a lot, but most of them have the equipment they want. So if they're going out for something very specific, or something breaks on their camera, then they come to me. But typically, it's the 25 to 34-year-old female photographers are my clients.
And how do you reach them? I mean, is there a photographer's underground that everybody knows?
Yeah. So my biggest way, I would say, was word of mouth at this point. Still, I run the Facebook group, which has 3,000 people in it, which is actually really cool because Facebook allows you to run a group as a business now. So that group was originally ran by me, but now it's ran by Digital Lens Rental. So I can post like as Digital Lens Rental instead of as Nick Sutton, which is kind of nice. Always keeping my name out there about the business. But I do pretty well on Google too. I do AdWords or whatever they changed it to recently, but it's so organically. I don't remember the numbers. I looked at them last week, but I do pretty well on search results. And I don't know if it's because I'm the only one, but I know my competition spends tons of money on ads on Google.
Who is your competition?
So my competition is like Borrow Lenses, Lens Rental. There's so many of them now. Boca Fire's one, Lens Pro to Go.
Are they local?
None of them are local. The closest one here is DC or it's somewhere up north. Which is really interesting because there's not one in Richmond, and there's not one. I think the next one is like Charlotte.
So they ship them to you?
Yeah, so they'll ship, and what they do is it'll be like $50 for you to have an item shipped to you. I mean, we
shipping
have,
part.
Just the shipping part. So we have orders that are $42. So that means you're going to spend $90, $50 of it shipping.
Especially last minute.
Yeah, at last minute it would be even more, so.
Where are you getting all your gear? How does that work? Are you leasing that, or I mean?
No, so I buy all my equipment. Most of my equipment is refurbished from the manufacturer. So luckily Nikon, Sigma, and Canon offer refurbished programs, which it comes with warranties on it. So Canon's 1-year warranty, which is good. Sigma's 90-day, and Nikon is 90-day, I think, as well. I've never had any issue with any of their equipment. Every time something comes in, we get it calibrated. We make sure that it is within spec. We don't have anything crazy or wonky with it.
And you have enough gear you can scale up if.
Yeah. So 2016. So when I started, I had probably like 12 pieces of equipment, and now I have probably 120. So it's it's easier for me to do that when I'm throwing all the revenue back in. So basically, let's say my weekly income averages between $1,700 and $2,500. Basically, that's one lens. So if I'm buying 4 lenses a month, it gets pretty quick, and I can see exactly what people are looking at. I go into Google and just go deep diving into it and say, oh, well, I had 56 people look at this one item on Wednesday. So how many of these do I have? When was it last that it all sold out? Do I need to buy them? And something that was brought up to me that for some reason, I don't know why I never thought of this. The lenses are replaced, the manufacturers replace lenses about every 7 years. So I was always thinking, oh, I need to rent this item 21 times to pay for it. But I never thought about it's 21 times over 7 years. And so when that was brought up to me, I was like, what? I was thinking like per year. I needed to rent 21 times per year. So I did the math on one lens, which was this Canon 70-200. It's $1,500, and I have to rent it 0.26 times per month for the next 7 years. I rented it 72 times this year,
Nice.
which is I was like, wow, that's all right. I guess I can afford to get a couple more. So.
What does it cost to do the insurance for all those products?
So insurance is $2,600 annually. So it's not bad.
How does it look? Do you say I want to insure this one specific camera? or?
So I send them my entire inventory list. So the insured side, it's a little tricky, but I'm insured for all the product that's in-house. So when it goes out, the liability is on the person renting. So, and we discussed about how I could become my own insurance agent basically and offer the service to give you protection and say it's $35. And I did a little feeler on that, and a lot of people didn't do anything with it. When I have equipment repaired, it's really not that expensive to repair it. Most people don't have a problem with getting it repaired anyways. You know, $300 for something that was $2,000.
Does the equipment get damaged a lot when it's rented out?
No, actually, well, this week was rough. I had 3 items that were broken, but I mean, we really hadn't had anything in the last 6 months or so. And when something does break, like I said, it's not that expensive. You know, we can repair it in-house if we can get the parts. If not, I teamed up with a company in New York who does all the repairs for the other rental places, so we get a really good rate on repairs. So basically, we just ship it out. You know, it's $16 to ship to them, which is pretty awesome. And then they repair it and send it back, and you know, it's not that big a deal.
All right, so what do you attribute your growth to this point, and what are you doing to drive growth going forward?
I honestly, my growth, so I have some really awesome employees. They've really, really helped me. I don't think I would be where I am without my employees. You know, I think they've given that what was the word I want to use? They've given that experience to people who don't know about us, or who don't know about renting, or don't know much about photography, or don't know that next level they want to get to. I think that's really, really helped. You know, like the mentors, like, you know, meeting Zach. You know, I used to have a space across the street, and meeting Zach really helped me, you know, going, hey, you should do this, or you should do this, or why are you being an idiot? No, don't do this. And, you know, I think it takes, there's just so many aspects of why I have growth, right? I mean, you know, having a day job and being able to dump all the money into it has been extremely helpful. And that's something I'm trying to figure out. Do I really want to make that jump to go to this full time, or do I need to just kind of ease up a little bit and just let it build up even more? I couldn't say there's one thing that I say, oh, this is why I grew. I think it's just figuring out the clients, figuring out the strategy of the company of how I'm gonna network, how I'm gonna, you know, let people understand that, you know, if you break something, it's not a big deal. It's a camera equipment. You know, people, and I tell my employees this. I said, when someone brings a broken piece of equipment back, they've been stressing ever since it's been broken. So when they come in, just be like, hey, it's fine. We're gonna take care of this. It's not a big deal. And I think that is another aspect that people are like, oh yeah, it's not that bad. It's not bad.
So you sound like you got a great technical infrastructure built so far, and internally you got everything organized.
Mm-hmm.
On this thing about growing the business, you know, if I go to the dentist, I pick up Coastal Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and they got a lot of colored glossy pictures in there about people who want to be preening in front of the camera, right? Have you ever thought about trying to get to organizations like those and say, hey, you want to talk to us about it, get interviews? So they put articles in those papers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kinds of folks who read those because they like to see themselves in pictures. And if you offer something which gives them good coverage without the professional photographer cost, seems to me that could be worthwhile.
Yeah, I've reached out to a couple of local magazines and article people, and it's really weird. Like, I don't get any response sometimes, and I'm like, I'm not gonna say the magazine's a dying industry. It's a tough industry, right? So you would think they would want my money or whatever it would take, you know, because I have no problem advertising. I think you have to market, right? Because not everybody knows about me. There's a lot of people who don't know about me. And kind of to go back to the Facebook group, one of the things is you can ask questions on the Facebook group when you want to join the Facebook group. And one of the questions is, hey, did you know there's digital lens rental where you can rent photography equipment in downtown Norfolk? And a lot of times people say, no, but that's awesome, or really, that's cool. You know, and I'm like, to me, I'm like, how do you not know about this? But, you know, there's tons of people.
So the average age of your customer, are they like digital natives or are they digital immigrants?
That's a good question. they're 25 to 34-year-old females. So
So 25 to like 30 is native of that spot.
yeah, it gets a little tricky. So I think what the most interesting aspect is trying to actually market to them on social media, because Facebook, I do really well on Facebook, but I don't do as well as you would probably think I do.
You're not gonna reach that customer on Facebook.
Yeah, so, but like Instagram and like, I don't do Snapchat, but Snapchat's one, and you have all these new platforms that the younger generations are
Instagram
going
is the
to.
number one.
So some of us in here are well down the road on the side of the digital immigrant side,
Mm-hmm.
all right? You may not be able to reach folks, because they don't look at the stuff you do
Oh,
on
right.
Facebook and all that.
Yep.
But folks like us with older, have more kids, we got grandkids, we got family, we got reunions, we got stuff like that.
And
Yeah.
more money.
And we have more money.
But if you're
That's
not
the,
his
that's the
customer,
kernel of the idea.
You got more money, so you'll buy.
maybe, but he's already determined that you're not his customer, so why would he waste that time and money on places where you're not?
But my thought there is the age group or whatever, that side uses the old-fashioned camera, unlike the millennials or the younger groups, they use their iPhone. They don't need rentals, but those side of the age group thus use those kind of old-fashioned camera, and they just come to you and you give them recommendation as a rental first rather than buying, because you give advice too, right?
Yeah. So it's funny because we actually have a lot of people who come in who aren't photographers. They're like, hey, I'm doing this.
Right.
What can I do? And I mean, they could pull out their Samsung, because I'm a Samsung guy.
But I see his valid point. What's his name?
Rick,
Rick. So I
or
see.
hey you, that works too.
Yeah, I see Rick's point as well.
Yeah.
That the magazine, the old-fashioned newspaper, could still be a valuable way to advertise.
Oh, yeah,
so
no,
you could target those who doesn't use iPhones or.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that it's a good target. Like Veer, for example, I don't know anyone who would go into somewhere that doesn't see a Veer magazine and at least pick it up and just start skimming through it.
Right.
Like, okay. Or like, what's the new one? Like craft beer now is I think another one.
Same
So
guys.
yeah, so I mean that's hitting younger generations and older generations.
When I think what you said, so my sister just graduated college, and my mom always uses her iPhone, and she went out and bought a Nikon professional, whatever it is, I'm not photo.
Have you heard of Digital Lens Rental? We can
Yes.
teach you.
Well,
about-
we were in Florida, and I didn't know she was doing this. She just shows up with this monster camera, and of course, I'm holding it the whole time.
Yeah.
She takes 3 photos, and I'm like, you just got this camera for 3 photos. And then the college is taking professional photos, but moms do that.
Yeah.
They don't want the iPhone photo for the graduation. It's gotta be professional.
Right.
So I think there is a market there for people who have phones that use it for camera every day. That, like you said, for special events.
Yeah.
Want the professional photo.
I mean, if you're at a graduation, you're not gonna sit. I mean, you probably will. You'd sit all the way in the back and take a picture with your phone, right? But you're gonna be like, oh,
Yeah,
I
once
don't
you
even know
see
which
it.
one he is.
I have lots of those. Yeah, it's-
So, you talked about growing a little bit, right? What are the different streams of revenue are you using to kind of grow the business? Are you doing classes, or kind of like a bring your own wine and we'll teach you about the Nikon, or?
So I'm kind of teaming up. Originally I started where I was like, oh, I want to do all this hands-on education, and I want to do these meetup nights, and I want to do this, and then I realized I'm just one person, and trying to juggle. Everybody's summer is extremely busy. That's why they host all the conferences in the winter, because not much goes on in the winter. But I quickly realized there's no way I could manage this by myself. Even with my employees, it's tough to run the business and try to do all this educational stuff. So I'm trying to team up with some studios that are around this area to say, what can I do to help you, and what can you do to help me? And so there was a workshop last week that I had one of my employees go to, and we just showed up with 12 lenses. And we're like, these are the lenses we think you guys could use for this type of workshop. We let everyone use them, and I'm sure we're gonna get 3 or 4 clients out of that, because whether they didn't know about us or they didn't know we had that specific lens or what it is. So that's kind of what I want to do for the educational side. We added the servicing stuff. So before we didn't have that. So now we have like the sensor cleanings, the calibrations, and the repairs. With our repairs, if it's too expensive that we can't do it in-house, like I said, we teamed up with a company in New York. So basically, we get a really, really good discount and basically get a little bit of a markup on the repairs. And it's still cheaper than if someone were to send it to Canon or Nikon or Sony to do the repair. So that's another revenue stream for us.
Yeah, you, it sounds like you teamed up with some of those companies. Have you thought about like special events companies or anything like that? Are you looking to team up with any other type organizations that would know people that want to use your services a lot more than the onesies and twosies, which
Yeah.
sounds like what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, if there's someone that I feel we could mutually help each other, I would definitely team up with them. There's not, you know, I would entertain anyone, you know, who wants to do some kind of, you know, teamwork, you know, where I can support them and they can support me. I mean, I had the radio station contact me, and I had, I think it was Wavy who came by one day, and they were like, we're starting this branding, and we need a lot of video equipment, we want to see what you have. And I was like, I don't really have a whole lot of video equipment, but tell me what you're looking for, and maybe we can work something out where I buy the equipment, and you tell me how often you need it, and we just make something work. So.
If somebody comes into your office and says, I want to do this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden says, wait, would you do it for me? Would you offer that service? And what I'm thinking of is folks put on big weddings in some place, and they hire the hairdresser.
Yep.
They pay for the transportation, all their costs, and to do the things for the ladies while they're at the site of the wedding.
Yes, so I personally, if someone were to come to me and say, hey, will you shoot my wedding? I go, I don't shoot weddings, but I can give you 1,000 referrals that do. Something I added to the site last year was, if you go on our website, you can go up there and go to resources. There's like a little resources tab, and it says, I think it just says photographers, you know, local photographers, and basically I allow people to come in and advertise their own businesses, and it breaks it down in categories. So I could go, oh, I'm looking for a wedding photographer, and it would pop up all these wedding photography people, and then it would, you know, if I'm looking for a sports photographer, you could do that as well. And then I also added a little sidebar, just kind of like a little perk for people to add their name to the list. It's basically like photographers we support, and it's basically almost like an ad, and it just re-pops up different people randomly saying like, oh, Kinetic Stills, which is my photography side. So.
Do you get any revenue from providing that advertising for them?
Not yet.
Well,
But that's the direction. You know, I have a space for advertising above that, and then I have the photographers, and I can actually, the plugin that I use is a WordPress site. On that, I can actually do free and premium. So the premium would allow, even if it was like $5 a month, if I got 100 people, hey, that's extra revenue. So.
Case of beer.
Yeah.
So as you've grown over the past couple of years, what's your biggest challenge now? Or what do you see as kind of like the one thing that, when you lay down at night, you're like, man, this is gonna be my biggest hurdle?
I still think I'm a kind of perfectionist for things being logistically optimized, I guess is the right way to say it. I think our back end can still be better. Right now it's kind of 3 different systems that we've got to run together. So we have our electronic forms. So it's probably easier if I just give you the whole breakdown. If someone were to place an order, it goes through WooCommerce. I use Zapier to take that order, and it throws it into a Google Sheet, and it tells me the order number, the name, their address. It gives me all their information. And then I go use Pronto Forms, and on Pronto Forms we go select the order number, which it says the order number and their last name and first name. You select that, and then we scan equipment, and then basically that sheet becomes a PDF, and that gets emailed to them, and it says they picked it up, and then we go back to WooCommerce and select it as picked up. So I really, 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 really would love to streamline that to be like one thing. The problem with that is WooCommerce isn't friendly for rentals, so it thinks I'm selling you an item, it's never coming back. Whereas the plugin I use says, I sold it, but it comes back on Thursday, and then it just fixes the inventory. Some of the rental softwares that I've looked into, like rentman.io, they don't integrate well online. So the one thing I don't want is for someone to go, I'm on your website, oh, now I gotta call them and ask them, you know, how much is something, or is it available? I absolutely cannot stand that when I have to do that. So I always want to keep that side. So I'd rather have a little bit of trouble on the back end for convenience for the customer. So if I could integrate everything, that's probably the one thing that I wish would be easier, and that's the one thing I think out the most.
So somebody rents a camera body and a lens, and they decide, you know, I really like that, I tested it out, I wanna buy it. Can they buy it from you?
They can't, and unfortunately, that's something I would love to be able to offer, but it's very hard with the map pricing system, you know, that Canon and Sony, you know, because the profit margin is just not there, so I can't hold, you know, $100,000 in inventory that I'm not making any money on. You know, I have no problem saying, if you want to buy this, you can, you know, go buy it either refurbished or you can go buy it on Amazon or whatever. Everybody's pricing is going to be exactly the same.
And you could put affiliate links on your
Right.
site to the
Yep.
Amazon
Yep.
purchase, and get a little bit of money off that
Yeah,
sale.
and something else that it kind of irritated me a little bit, because as much equipment as I am buying, you know, you would think that, I know I'm a nobody still in the world of buying equipment, but you would still think that, hey, this guy's buying something almost every week from us. Like, maybe we can do something for him to be able to sell some, you know,
Yeah.
small.
Have you asked them for that?
Yeah, so Sony wanted an outrageous amount of money for me to even be considered. And then what a lot of them are doing now is they're like, so are you selling any other items from any other companies? And you would think the answer would be like, no, because I only want to sell yours. And they're like, oh, well, you need to have 6 or 7 brands that you're already selling.
What if there's another vendor that people buy Sony from or whoever from that is kind of your competitor, but you can buy a couple from them to get a discount from?
Oh, so you're saying like Adorama or like a B&H or whoever?
Yeah.
I don't know, I never reached out to them
I
actually.
don't know, it doesn't make much sense to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think you should sell your equipment, like he's saying, if someone rents it and wants to buy it, sell it. Buy new
Yeah.
refurbished stuff, so
Just buy
you're
another
turning, I mean, like Sunbelt, once your equipment's so
Yeah,
old,
I
you
guess
wanna turn it,
Right.
because you don't wanna wait that 7-year mark and then your lens is worth
Right.
nothing.
Yeah.
You wanna sell it at the 4-year mark, you're already out of it, so you've rented it
Well-
63 times, you've tripled your money.
Often the
What's
option-
really good about the photography industry with equipment, some of you probably already know this, but for example, we'll use the Canon 70-200 lens, which is probably one of the most popular lenses on the market. It's $1,500. 7 years from now, it'll still be worth about $800 or $900. So it doesn't go to zero. It'll never go to zero unless it's totally trashed or broken. But even then, I would still have made my money on it. But
You still have wear and tear on your equipment that you're not factoring in a price factor. If you rented it, let's say it lasts 100 rentals, and then you start having real issues with it and start costing you money, you're better off selling that thing for $1,000 and you're flipping it out and you're getting new inventory all the time.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely would be a bad idea.
I mean, there's a
actually,
reason
'cause-
Sunbelt and the rest of them do it. Volvo, all
Yeah.
these guys that rent monstrous equipment, I mean, they're constantly
Enterprise
selling.
rental car,
Yeah, they'll do it.
sells
Right.
their cars after a year.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you do that on your site, you bring in a new lens, you can flag that brand new, be the
Right.
first to rent it,
Yeah.
or something like that, 'cause people
Yeah.
like brand new.
And that might put you in a better position with Canon and the rest of them, where you're buying more inventory and you're constantly flipping it. So you can say, yeah, I sell Canon, I sell Minolta, I sell whatever.
Yeah.
Whether or not you sell new stuff, they don't need to know that.
Right.
And then by the time you go to them, you go, yeah, I sold, all these 5 different vendors last year. Why can't I carry Olympus?
Right.
And then they might start giving you, instead of buying it, a better lease rate. Have you looked at leasing the equipment from them?
Yeah, so I did look at it. Actually, someone mentioned that in 2016 here, and so I looked into it, and it's very tricky word-wise. I don't know if it's legal or not.
Why?
I don't. It's the way that they word it. The companies who I would be leasing it from, because technically I'm releasing it short-term to other people.
You're co-sharing it.
Yeah.
So the same problem exists with Airbnb, but if you use the word co-sharing instead of renting, you can't have landlords come back after you, because you're not renting your place when you're not using it, you're co-sharing it, and you're gonna get around. Well, you just change your contract, you're co-sharing
Yeah.
it.
Right.
And you could get around some of that, because honestly, no one's gonna come after you anyway until you
Right.
don't make your lease payment.
Yeah.
They don't really care, I mean.
Yeah, I talked to Canon, which you think Canon would be easy to talk to because they're right across the water, but I talked to them 3 different times, and they have it on their website that there's leasing programs. So I went to a trade show and I was like, hey, I want to talk to somebody about leasing. There's like 30 people at this trade show. I'm like, oh, talk to this guy. So I go talk to this guy. He's like, oh, well, you've got to email this person. So I email this person. That person's like, you got to call this person. So I call this person. And that person's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, all right. So, because like Canon, for example, Canon offers leasing programs for like their cinema equipment, because their cinema equipment is so outrageously expensive. We're talking, some of their one lens could be, you know, $25,000. So they have leasing programs to where you can lease that equipment for 1, 2, 3 years or whatever. So trying to, I need to look more into it, but I don't know if it is possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about the legality of it. They're not gonna come after you unless you don't pay them.
What was your name? I wanted to say, just in case they come after
Yeah.
me. Just in case they come after me.
Attorney at law.
I'll write it down for you.
Yeah.
So you said you have 120 pieces? of
Yeah, it's
equipment?
somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay, at some point, 1, 2s, and 3s, you're going to want to offload those. What do you do now? And then this thing about selling them, maybe not somebody walking in, I'd like to have the one I rented,
Mm-hmm.
but if you offered or put on your website, here's what's available for purchase, that you try to offload anyhow. I mean, I've got a son who's a camera nut out in the Chicago suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had it up on the website, say, hey, go on the website, see if you're interested in that.
Yeah, so I actually have a for sale section with nothing in it on my page. It's hidden right now, but you know, that was the plan. Once I get to a good example is I have a Canon 16-35 version 2 and a Canon 16-35 version 3, which it's really interesting because you would think, oh, you get the new one, go ahead and sell the old one. But some people don't want to spend the extra $15 for the new one. So I'm still making money on the old one. I'm just like, well, I don't understand. I need to figure out, when do I sell this? When is my return on investment basically kind of flat?
But is that part of your problem of having two options? If you only had the one option, they might pay the $15 and not, right? Because if you're the only guy in town and they're paying $50 a ship, I mean, you're giving them too many options. They're gonna take the cheaper option.
Yeah.
They might be stuck anyway, and you're holding dead inventory.
Yeah, it's tricky because I think the problem is, you know, when you have cameras and lenses and you have these different versions, some people just need that lens for a specific reason. So if I took away that option, they might go to the competitor who has the older version.
But if they're
But
not
then
local,
they're
they're
gonna pay
spending
another
more money.
$50.
Yeah.
It may not be money, they may actually want that specific version of
Yeah.
that specific lens.
How much inventory are you holding at one time? Like, how much is not rented?
I don't know that answer really. I mean, it really, really fluctuates. So I've had some weekends where, you know, so right now I can tell you there's 16 rentals out for today, well, just today, but I can't tell you how many pieces of equipment that is without actually looking into it.
Oh, 'cause
So
it'll be
I would-
multiples.
I would say there's probably, I don't know, half the inventory still left.
So when you buy a new lens, like they're saying, are you having the problem where people are still renting the old one and not the new one, or both are getting rented?
They're both getting rented.
So then I would just I would watch the lens, the older one, and decide for you what mark, like if it's only getting rented 2 times a month, that's it, it's not worth me carrying it, I need to get something new, and pick your mark. And then when it reaches that, list it for sale.
Yeah.
That's kind of, as long as they're both renting, I think you're okay until the older one gets to the point where it's just dead weight.
Yeah, and it's
And
interesting.
it's
From a
too.
tax point, you're depreciating your assets over 5 years, right?
Yeah.
You might be better to flip your assets anyway at 3 years or 4
Right.
years. You'd have to run the numbers because you could depreciate the new asset.
Right.
Faster.
Yeah.
And that's probably why the rental companies are doing it.
Plus, you could take the cash for the money you make on the
And buy
sale,
another equipment.
and then it pushes people into the higher priced item.
Right,
You could
yeah.
keep one of that lower price, which could be like always rented, but people get pushed into the other. You
And I
know,
almost
there's-
wonder if they would ever notice. Like, I know they would notice because the price would increase, but I wonder if it would start dawning on them. They'd be like, oh, this, I didn't even know there was a new one. I want the new one. That's definitely something, I should try that out with a couple of items that have been replaced with new items.
Are you giving any classes? Are you having any classes, like camera classes or anything to get extra revenue? You
So
got,
that's the one that I was saying, we're coordinating with all like the workshops and the studios in the area. I
Yeah.
mean, just because it's, one, I don't really have the space to do it, and I don't really have the time to do it. You know,
Right.
with my photography business and my full-time job and this job, you know, it's pulling me in different directions all the time. So me as one person, I couldn't do it. You know, it's something that we're gonna eventually probably end up doing, just for the fact of it brings new customers in who may not know about us. But at the same time, it's almost easier to say, hey, I want to sponsor 3 seats in your workshop that are, you know, given out by us, or, you know, put us on your, you know, presentation that you have or whatever, just to advertise, because they're kind of doing the legwork to bring in new clients for them, but hopefully also seeing those clients will also see us as new, not knowing about us.
So you're thinking about expanding or having another location. From what areas do most of your customers come? Do you know what cities or?
Virginia Beach is my most popular city.
It's funny because I was thinking that could be, so.
Yeah, so Virginia Beach is.
And I wonder how many people don't come because you're in Norfolk, you know?
A lot. A lot of people freak out about parking in Norfolk.
Yes.
I'm one of those. I'm one of those people who I used to not be in Norfolk, and I was like, it's the worst. You know,
And they don't know where to park. It's just like
Right.
you ride around the block, you
Streets
know?
are crazy, you got a tram coming at you, I'm like, what is this? I live here and I can't get over there.
Yeah,
We just don't know how to do it.
Terrible.
yeah, and you know,
So rather than a second location, would you just consider moving, or is there?
Or
I've
opening
thought-
like even a smaller one
thought-
in Virginia Beach, like a drop-off pickup one.
Run
There's
out
a-
of kosher.
there's a really
spot
nice-
downtown.
That's what I was thinking.
There's a really nice spot next to Mission Barbecue that's really small in that shopping center.
Mhm.
And 1, I love Mission Barbecue, and 2, it's a really small spot. And it has parking.
Where is that?
Over at
Right
Town
next to the
Center,
old Circuit
right?
That's
City.
right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha, yeah, yeah.
So, you know, that was something I thought, hey, if there's a big parking lot, you know, it kind of makes it easier. The one thing I have going for me where I'm at now is the way that my rent is broken out. So I have a fairly decent rate, but it includes everything. So the only thing I really pay for on top of it is internet, which is really nice. Not that I use a lot of power, not that it would cost me a lot of money, but if I were to go into a shopping center, for example, I already know I'm going to be paying a lot,
All the bills.
you know, and then all the bills on top of it. So I thought about trying to do something with additional studios, maybe saying like, hey, if you guys allow us to have pickups and returns at your studios, whether I need to bring someone in there to work those times, or you know, I just kind of pay you to have, you know, manage it when you're there between these specific hours. So I'm definitely trying to figure out how to make it work cost effectively.
You could even give them like a small piece.
Right.
Like, do you know Sammy Roy?
Yes.
Okay, so she just opened a studio.
Yeah. So she
like,
was the one we did the workshop with.
Okay, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, she would totally do photography and wine, so that's what I was gonna
Oh.
recommend.
Yeah, every time you go to her studio, she's like,
Yeah,
you want some wine? I'm like, it's 9 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning.
I know, she's awesome, I love her. But so she might be willing, you know, even where people can just pick it,
Secret to
simple,
life.
she only holds, you know, maybe 10 pieces, and once
Yeah.
it's rented, otherwise you have to come to Norfolk.
Yep.
You could test that and see how it does over here, and then kind of, you know, dip your toes in the water before you open a second one or jump or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
How about having like a camera class, like at a wine, like Mermaid Winery on a Tuesday night when they need revenue anyway?
Yeah,
That's
like
a- that's a
paint
good
And
night.
then you could
Actually.
do a joint venture, because you wanna drive them to you, you really
So
don't
almost
want
like a
people.
paint night.
Yeah, and how paint night does is they get all the
They do that,
ticket
yeah.
sales, and then the restaurant gets any of the wine or food booked during the paint night,
I should reach out to Jennifer.
so
Yeah, I
that's
mean-
not a bad
Jennifer
idea.
Reichert, so yeah.
I mean, like Virginia Beach, to me, is you're a photographer, right?
Mhm.
During the day.
Yep.
So why don't you actually go to the ocean front? You can talk to a hotel, in one of the hotels you can get a small spot. So that will be a small, probably you can find a small office location. And just go out there and people are taking pictures and you can just say that you actually hire yourself too. I mean, you can just take a couple pictures at the beach. People are 10 and with the depth of field,
Right.
it's a whole different thing. You can just show them right there on the spot and hire yourself, basically.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people like I have a semi-decent camera, but a professional camera takes a different picture with the better depth of field, and you can bring extra revenue by hiring yourself on the spot. So it's not like a wedding,
Right.
but you just take pictures at the beach, basically. I mean, they used to do that with Polaroids and stuff like
Oh,
that,
yeah,
which,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's almost like what they do at like Busch Gardens, right?
basically. But I mean, you can actually have an agreement with the hotels. I mean, I just came from vacation. The resorts, every resort in Turkey, have photographers, and they take pictures all day long. And
Oh, right,
at
yeah.
the end, you just go look at it. I mean, you like them because it's different. It's good quality, so you end up buying them, and you can you have a.
That's actually an interesting. That's a very interesting concept that I don't think is actually done around here at all.
I mean, I just spent.
And that's on the
And
photography
if
side.
you're there,
I mean,
you
that's-
could
yeah,
just
that's very
make
And-
that additional money. I mean, if you're sitting in Norfolk in your office, you're just sitting there.
Right.
You could sit in the office down there and you're taking pictures and making additional revenue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you just go around the pool. You know, I say, would you like a picture? And you know, snap a couple. I don't know the rules here. Over
Yeah,
there,
I don't know.
I mean, they just go and take your kid's picture, and at night before dinner, you see the kid's picture. They're like, wow, this is a great picture. So you end up booking a session with them, and you know, bring extra revenue.
It's like the cruise lines.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or Disney does.
I'll be happy to offer you space after 6 p.m. and I can even sponsor, because I do called workshop and photography. I'm actually looking for somebody who can teach photography, and it's going to be a town center, so that's a good spot for you. Ample parking.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
Let's definitely talk.
Yep.
Definitely a good place.
Also, I want to mention, because I was a photographer many years ago, and I purchased the equipment, the camera. I thought about renting, but you mentioned about optimizing your logistic, right? I'm that kind of person too, so I thought if I buy it, I can maximize the use of it, but unfortunately I didn't, so I moved on to a different business. But, and then later on I read something like a lot of this is smart people, like Warren Buffett actually recommends renting rather than buying.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you should capitalize that and encourage people to actually rent rather than buy. And you give the pointers, the pros and cons of actually renting. Because I'm at one time a photographer, I should have, you know, rented, you know, looking back, because now I have stagnant equipment.
Right. Yeah.
But
That
I
was
think,
worth way less.
yeah, but then I wasn't educated enough into renting rather than buying.
Yeah, that's something I probably don't
Yeah,
do well enough. I don't push the rental side like.
yeah, you need to
Why
push.
spend
make
thousands
it-
of dollars
yeah.
when you can spend $50?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Google them. I think it was not just Warren Buffett who recommends renting, but there are other smart people, because they think the value in renting
Mm-hmm.
eventually is actually more encouraging.
Yeah,
So.
do some. See, you would think I've done a lot of research on marketing rental
Yeah.
stuff, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, put a
Yeah,
snippet,
but-
a one word, a quote from this, why renting is
Yeah.
good, and then put it on your Facebook. Sorry.
So, piggyback a little bit, do you take donations? He's got extra equipment that he doesn't use anymore, and maybe he could donate his stuff to you and you can give him credit
Right.
towards renting, or something like that, or.
Yeah, I mean.
That was
so the only-
5-year-old cameras.
The
Right,
only
but you
donation
might,
that I've
that might
ever-
be one of the old ones, you know, if
The
somebody
only
has a big.
donation that I've ever done in the past was I had some teacher friends who they were trying to get their kids involved in photography, and basically I just did call out and said, hey, if you have any old equipment, bring it to the shop. We'll give you a credit towards additional rental, and all these old cameras are going to go to the schools. Because if I can get these kids to get into photography, hopefully when they're old enough they rent from me. So I mean that's the strategy. But
Microsoft play there.
So Nick, what can 1 million cups do for you?
1 million cups have done a lot for me already. It's
He's back.
I'm back, right? I'm still here.
You're back.
I'm here after this amount of time, which has been awesome. So yeah,
We have for you.
the cup I knocked
The
down.
door prize.
I didn't know it was
Come back
there.
again and take another 1 million cups of
Yeah.
coffee with us. So
Two-
we
two
hope
more
you
years.
Come back in another little while
Yeah.
and tell us how it's all going. We'll
Yeah.
take advantage of all this good advice.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.